From dense Pacific Northwestern rainforests boasting fascinating histories, terrifying hauntings, and evil cults bent on world domination, to abandoned train tunnels that once acted as stage to horrific disasters, where it's said resulting restless spirits still roam. Are you ready for the most haunted hikes in Washington? Number 5. The Silver Star Mountain Hike. The Silver Star Mountain Hike, located within the Gifford-Pinchot National Forest, is an 8.3-mile trek beginning off Forest Road 1200, right in the saddle of Larch Mountain and Silver Star, an area highly renowned amongst mountaineers and hikers alike. Historically, and through the ages, this region played home to a number of native tribes, and today, a handful of odd man-made pits are still viewable, with many speculating these strange craters were once used as either storage space, hunting blinds, or for spiritual ceremonies. In 1902, a large fire which started out of Stevenson and spread to Yakult resulted in 38 fatalities. In 1949, the expanse was officialized as Gifford-Pinchot National Forest, and following 16 smaller blazes in 1952, a fire lookout was constructed atop Silver Star. Around the same time, massive reforestation efforts were launched. In 1969, the lookout was removed entirely, and in 1985, the non-profit Gifford-Pinchot Task Force was established to promote conservation of the should-be prestigious woodland. In recent times, Star Mountain is recognized for its assortment of old roads turned trails, for its impressive array of landmarks and viewpoints, and, as local legend has it, for a slew of chilling hauntings, with both hikers and officials reporting otherworldly noises from high in the trees, disembodied whispers, the constant feeling of being watched or followed, and of encounters with both shadowy figures and full-bodied apparitions in clothing spanning the centuries. Sasquatch sightings near Star Mountain are all but common, and in as recently as November of 2005, a hiker actually managed to capture now famous photographic evidence of the creature. Lastly, and reported all along, Silver Star Mountain hike are unnatural cold and hot spots, and strange mists that float with seeming sentience. Number 4. Iron Goat Trail. Iron Goat Trail, located off Tye Road, west of Leavenworth and east of Skykomish, off Stevens Pass, is a gentle 6-mile trek following a historic railway, which is ominously recognized for its hosting of what was actually the deadliest avalanche in U.S. history. Initially, this chunk of rail line was constructed in 1893 by the Great Northern Railroad, now Burlington Northern Santa Fe, who utilized around 800 workers to painstakingly lay tracks straight through Stevens Pass. The same year, the town of Wellington was founded off the west end of the Cascade Tunnel, complete with a train depot and mainly to serve railway workers of the region. Tragically, in March of 1910, 2 trains crossing the Cascade Crest became snowed in at Wellington, and in the middle of the night were thrown 150 feet down the slopes into Tye Creek by a massive avalanche which resulted in 96 fatalities. Following this incident, Wellington would undergo a name change to Tye, many suspect to shake negative publicity. In 1929, the railroad and tunnels were closed down in favor of our current Cascade Tunnel, and later, the old town site was left abandoned, with the grade being transformed into what is now Iron Goat Trail. Along this trail, aged wreckage is still visible, and over the years, a number of local legends surrounding supposed hauntings have surfaced, with both hikers and officials reporting disembodied voices, footsteps from vacant spaces, Sasquatch sightings, and even the sensation of being tapped, touched, or grabbed by invisible hands. Not surprisingly, tale tells the spirits of the victims of the avalanche remain, and right near the river, many have described ghostly screams, the explosive commotion of a violent accident, and the sounds of an avalanche that seem so real they've sent some fleeing in terror. Lastly, within Iron Goat's train tunnels, many have reported strange hotspots, phantom train lights, and an overwhelming sense of dread. Number 3. The Lime Kiln Trail. The Lime Kiln Trail, located east of Granite Falls and just north of Schwartz Lake, is a popular 7-mile round-trip hike cutting through Robe Canyon Historic Park in the Stillaguamish River Valley. Historically, construction of the Everett and Monte Cristo Railway was started in the area in 1892 and was purposed with transporting gold and silver ore from the mines to smelters, while also serving the logging industry. In 1897, a lime kiln was constructed to convert local limestone into calcium oxide, which was then shipped on the rail line. Sadly, over the years, this line was plagued by constant natural disasters. In the early 1930s, it, along with the kiln, were abandoned entirely, and in 1936, rails were torn up and converted into roads and trails. The lime kiln loop descends to the riverbank below and as such gets quite treacherous in the winter, so needless to say, in cold weather, extreme caution is advised. The whole of the site is family and dog friendly and offers an assortment of scenic trails ranging from old roadbeds to narrow stony pathways, with frequent signage displaying educational information regarding the area's history. The kiln, covered in moss and old growth, perpetuates an ominous appearance, with its entrance littered in old saw blades, cracked bricks, and additional aged effects. At this landmark, which is rumored to be a hotbed for cult and satanic activity, evidence of dark rituals alongside animal sacrifice has been discovered, and those braving it have reported orbs visible to the naked eye, strange electronic malfunctions, and an inexplicable and sudden feeling of anxiety. Several informal investigations of the site have yielded high EMF levels, odd temperature fluctuations, and even instances of the artifacts moving around on their own, and some have recounted feeling as if they were being followed or watched by something unseen. Lastly, many hiking the lime kiln have told of encounters with shadowy figures, unnatural clouds of fog, and the full-bodied apparitions of both loggers and miners. Number 2. The Hoh River Trail. The Hoh River Trail, located south of Forks off of US Highway 101 and following the Hoh River to Blue Glacier along the western edge of Olympic National Park, is a popular rainforest expanse offering treks ranging from 1 to 35 miles in length, dependent on start point and destination. Historically, earliest known contact by Europeans with native peoples of the region, the Hoh, occurred in 1787, and initial settlers would face a range of locale-related challenges, including flooding, isolation, difficulties fighting the river's current, and, of course, navigation of the unimaginably dense forest. Though a range of communities had learned to manage by the early 1900s, by 1919 most of them were left abandoned as their residents sought out easier lifestyles in larger cities. In 1938, Olympic National Park was established, with the area's old town roads transformed into its many hiking trails. The park's main trail, which stays pretty flat for its first 13 miles, becomes quite steep as it ascends Glacier Meadows, and the expanse offers an assortment of options for both single and multi-day trips. In recent times, the Hoh River Trail has grown in both infamy and recognition amongst paranormal researchers and self-proclaimed adventurers everywhere for its purported range of supernatural activity, and many hiking it have described extreme cold spots, orbs of light that zip about the dense foliage, and the constant feeling of being watched by something unseen. Through the 1970s, a number of stories surrounding satanic cults, witches, and strange goat-looking men clad in dark robes with hooves for feet surfaced right along the Hoh, with a bulk of said terrifying encounters occurring right around October 31st, or Halloween. Some tell that this cult is still very much active and that somewhere deep within the forest, they're attempting to bring a powerful demon into our realm. Also reported along the trail are strange mists that float with seeming sentience, encounters with apparitions in clothing spanning the eras, and, much like our other locations, frequent Sasquatch sightings. Lastly, many who've hiked Hoh have described the sounds of drums and chanting emanating from thin air, and several additional fables tell of vampires, fairies, and other creatures of lore that roam near. Number 1. Spruce Railroad Trail. Spruce Railroad Trail, also known as the Lake Crescent Trail and located off the shores of Lake Crescent, 20 miles or so west of Port Angeles, is a hike totaling in at around 10 miles that acts as part of the much larger Olympic Discovery Trail, which stretches 135 miles between Port Townsend and La Push. Historically, a rail line was first constructed through the area in 1918 by the government for the purpose of harvesting and transporting spruce for construction of biplanes in World War I. But the war ended before the line could be utilized, and it was sold instead to commercial interests. Over the years, the old route would serve as a carrier line and then as a logging line, until its abandonment in favor of more efficient transport methods circa 1951. Following the line's closure, the National Park System would acquire and transform portions of the old railbed into expansive trails, and from 2017 to 2020, Spruce Railroad Trail was upgraded to universal accessibility standards, with many of its areas also paved and widened. Spruce follows the former Port Angeles Western Railroad grade along the shores of Lake Crescent and remains fairly level through its duration, offering a perfect opportunity for budding hikers seeking to earn their stripes. From early into its utilization, this trail has been steeped in local lore and ghost stories, stemming from several prominent legends. In 1929, Russell and Blanche Warren disappeared while driving near Lake Crescent. Sadly, no one knew what became of them until 2002, when their vehicle was pulled from the lake and identification of remains inside confirmed their identities. Many have spoken of chilling encounters with their apparitions along the trail, shivering and unnaturally blue with cold. Reported along the old grade are orbs visible to the naked eye, abnormal battery death rates, odd electronic malfunctions, and disembodied voices, footsteps, splashing, and even screaming heard from the waters. Another popular story surrounding Lake Crescent tells of Hallie Illingworth, who also went missing in the area in 1937, and whose body was discovered 3 years later floating in its waters. Upon further investigation, her cause of death was found to be homicide-related, resulting in the charge and arrest of her husband, who only ended up serving 9 years. Legend tells that Hallie's vengeful presence, since dubbed the Lady of the Lake, still roams Spruce Railroad Trail after dark, calling for help, and that should any fall for her trick and attempt to communicate with or help her in any way, that she might just drag them back to the bottom of the lake to share in her unfortunate fate. Also reported along this old route are abnormal cold spots, shadowy figures that slink about, apparitions in clothing spanning the eras, and the sensation of being watched or even stalked by something unseen. One final legend, which is actually mostly truth, tells of how in 2012 serial killer Israel Keys admitted to dumping at least one of his victims in Lake Crescent. The disturbing reality is, many speculate there were probably countless bodies already down there awaiting his addition, and that, quite possibly, more have since joined. Taking its ridiculously fascinating and exceedingly dark history into account, and coupling it with a range of paranormal infestations, urban legends, and tales of terror a mile deep, we felt Spruce Railroad Trail was the perfect choice as the most haunted hike in Washington. Thanks for tuning in for our list of picks for some of the most haunted hikes in Washington. If you enjoyed hearing our histories and ghost stories, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn notifications on. Throw us a like, and most importantly, share us with anyone you feel could use a good scare. We'll catch you all next time, if something else doesn't first.